that's 1 Timothy 2:15, by the way. Yet she will be saved through childbearing. They continue in faith, love, and holiness.
Yeah.
So
For example,
it is a moral duty.
You could have a secular government that only, and this is the case for almost every single nation with the exception of less than a handful, men are compelled by force in times of war, drafted. There's no corresponding, like, we're going to force women to do this.
Okay.
Sure.
Low-key, this sounds like The Handmaid's Tale. Are you saying we're forcefully impregnating women? Is that what like, how else are we?
No, I'm not doing a prescriptive claim. I'm speaking descriptively. I'm talking about what is, not what should be. I don't think women should be forced to, but it is an interesting thought experiment to be like, okay, well, if the government can force men to, go somewhere, European theater during World War II, European theater during World War I, and die in some trench and be bombarded with shells and for months on end and suffer extreme PTSD. This kind of ties into our previous conversation with duties. So men have duties to the point where they can be forced to go to war for their country. And we can talk about, well, women's duties are this, but it's not state compelled, whereas men's duties are state compelled through force. Nobody points a gun in a woman's head and says, in a time of war where here, I can frame it this way. Well, to finish my sentence, women, there's nothing that compels women from the state down that says, okay, you need to go have kids, you need to produce kids. Nothing like that. Let's say, for example,
not even that it would be a good idea. Think about it from even the military side. Like, you guys remember growing up with the Army commercials? Like, they would even put the Army commercials in kids' shows, right? Thinking that this would assist with the psychological indoctrination for later, you know what I mean? And they had the cool music, and, they would have these cool slogans like Army of One, you know what I mean? Things like that. All of that was indoctrination from the top down in order to get men to fulfill a social duty for the protection of the nation. Same thing, but there's no equivalent of that, even through propaganda for women. And that's kind of Brian's main point here.
So then are you both saying that men should not be legally obligated to fight in wars?
Well, I think that the draft is necessary. And I think that there's all sorts of compelling reasons I can give. Now, this is one of my most unpopular positions, that I think that the draft is necessary, and that there can be great times where you need huge amounts of conscripts to defend the nation, and that there is a social obligation for men to do that. The reason men resist that now is because they don't feel like women are living up to the same obligations that they are compelled to have to move towards, and so they don't want the draft anymore. Women can't be drafted. Right? There's all sorts of double standards for women. Women, for instance, sports reporters, I was talking about this earlier today, they can go into men's locker rooms, and they fought for the right to go into men's locker rooms to interview them. Men can't go into women's locker rooms and do interviews. Like, there's all kinds of crazy double standards which are set between the sexes. In an egalitarian society, you can't really have that. So it's like, if it is the case that you think that women deserve an honored place in society as matrons, then they have to fulfill their social obligations like they expect men to do. Or why is it that you would have any expectations of men? Why wouldn't men just resist it at every level? That's Brian's point here, right?
I actually agree with you a lot on the draft is necessary and stuff. What I think, this is just a thought I've randomly had, is that women shouldn't be allowed to go to college until they're like 28. If men are being drafted, women shouldn't be allowed to go to college until they're 28 unless they have kids. It's just a thought I had. Because if they don't have a career to seek after, then they have husbands.
It's a thought.
It's a thought. It's a thought.
Interesting thought.
It's a thought.
That's a crazy
Fair.
thought.